Oh, hi! I love coffee, and today I really need coffee. Coffee, coffee, coffee. By the way, hi guys, and thanks for clicking. If you are new here, hi, I'm Kat, and I like to talk about crimes, investigations, and all sorts of things. Please don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button below. Also, make sure you hit the notification bell so you are the first one to know about any new videos I upload. For my returning subscribers and viewers, thank you all so much for all the support you are continuously giving me and for all those beautiful comments I keep receiving from you. Thank you. Today I want to talk to you about Metodo 3. But before we get started, here is the disclaimer. I do not mean to be disrespectful to anyone I talk about in this video. The video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The information I collect is from the internet. I compile this information and I make a video, and from this you guys are more than welcome to draw your own conclusions. Thank you. Okay, I had my coffee, now let's get started. Don't forget to bring your coffee as well. So, in my previous video we covered Operation Grange, but now I want to look at Metodo 3. Metodo 3 are the team of private investigators employed by the Mccanns after their return from Portugal, where they were made suspects, as we know. It seems that the total amount spent on Metodo 3 is somewhere between £300,000 and £700,000, but we'll get back to this in a while in more detail. Metodo 3 are Spanish-based, family-run detective agency set up in 1985 by Maria Marco, also known as Marita or Marita Fernandez Lado. The director of this agency is Maria's son, who is Francisco Marco. When Metodo 3 was hired, Francisco insisted the agency had a 100% success rate and managed to reunite 23 missing children with their families. However, in an interview in 2003, he said the agency's main focus is companies, and I think most of their work involved investigating fraud, which would explain why their senior employees were lawyers. They were hired on a 6-month contract, and even though the Mccanns only mentioned them as being hired officially in October 2007, I believe they were brought into the investigation much earlier, maybe after the Mccanns were made suspects, quite possibly to muddy the waters over who was actually doing the investigation, you know, to get us confused. Yes, I know that the Mccanns said they Metodo 3 were brought in to help find Madeleine, because the Mccanns were not happy with the PJ investigation and blah blah, but you know what, I'm actually not buying it. I think that is utter and complete rubbish. It's my opinion. The Mccanns knew very well where Madeleine was, but of course something more had to be done just to show how useless the PJ was in finding Madeleine, right? And in the end, as Jerry loves to say, confusion is good. I think their move was supposed to make us doubt the capability of the Portuguese police in investigating. The Mccanns were always bringing forward that the avenues the PJ are taking in the investigation are not helping Madeleine, are not helping find Madeleine, and it's all a waste of time. Obviously, the PJ were sent in all the wrong directions, investigating potential leads which were nothing more than distraction tactics, in my opinion. I have to say, in my opinion. We have, as you know, we have the Tannerman, we have the timelines, we have the sightings all over the world. Now in this country, the next minute in another country across the world. Now this witness saw this van. Now they saw Robert Murat lurking around the Palm 5A. Now there was a couple who abducted Madeleine. But no, it was a man. But hold on, no, it was a woman. But wait, there were more than one who participated in the abduction. The curtain whooshed, but then they didn't. The shutters were up, but then they were down. The door was locked, unlocked. The door was open, closed, at a 45-degree angle. They even took the time to measure the angle. How precise and mathematical even, you know. If you just listen to what I said, do you even realize how this all sounds? It just sounds stupid, really. It sounds stupid in my opinion. But hey, like Jerry says, confusion is good, right? So, Since we'll try not to be confused, which in some instances proves quite difficult in this case, I want to point out Metodo 3 were not the first detective agency hired by the Mccanns. Just as the rich and powerful Brian Kennedy snapped his fingers along with his money, the Control Risks Group was whooshed into Praia da Luz just 9 days after Madeleine's disappearance. And this is the funniest one out of all. Listen to this. According to Kate's book, they just turned up during a meeting the Mccanns had with a paralegal and the barrister from Leicester. Kate also said the agents from the group were sent by an anonymous yet wealthy donor who employed them so the Mccanns can use their services if they wish so. Kate also made sure to add they were giving their statements to the detectives from the Control Risks Group within hours of their arrival. May I also add from myself how efficient they were, right? Much more efficient than the Portuguese police. That's what she's trying to highlight, probably. Okay, so a paralegal is a person trained in legal matters but not quite a lawyer yet, yeah? Then a barrister is a specialized lawyer to represent clients in court. Now this is it for the English definitions. We are not in a school hour. So, let's see. It's just been 9 days after Madeleine's disappearance, okay? The Control Risks Group just popped in on the Mccanns meeting. Why would the Mccanns have a paralegal and barrister meeting anyway? Just 9 days after Madeleine's disappearance. How would that even help with finding Madeleine? You tell me how. I don't really think that parents of missing children should need legal advice, not especially so soon after their child's disappearance. Is this what they were so busy with following the days of Madeleine's disappearance? I mean, like they said in an interview, they were not physically searching, but they were so extremely busy in supporting the police in their search, apart, you know, from actually searching themselves. Yeah, that's how busy they were. Let the underdogs search, in this case, the police and other people, and the king and queen just sit down on their thrones and type in on their keyboard how to deceive everyone. In my opinion, of course. And again, why would a business tycoon like Brian Kennedy ask help from Control Risks Group, which is, and I quote, a specialist global risk consultancy that helps organizations succeed in a volatile world. Through insight, intelligence, and technology, we help you seize opportunities while remaining secure, compliant, and resilient. When crises and complex issues arise, we help you recover. I mean, end of quote. I mean, you do whatever you want with the group's objectives, which I just talked about, but the Mccanns were hardly an organization at the beginning. That is, at the beginning. They became a company with millions? Well, yeah, they did. Which I think was the whole point of it, right? This Control Risks Group has more than 600 employees. Many of those are former members of MI5, MI6, the SAS, which is Special Air Service, and the Special Boat Service. And I quote again, when crises arise, we help you recover. End of quote. Is that what they did with the Special Boat Service and the MI5? Maybe they helped clean up the scene and transport the body? Came up with a plan? I mean, anyway, I'm speculating here, so please don't take legal action against me. Okay, anyway, let's get back on track with this. This same company or group, or whatever you want to call it, was allegedly also on a retainer by the PR company Bell Pottinger, or Bell Pottinger, whatever his name is, or the name is, as part of a crisis management team on behalf of Mark Warner, which makes you wonder, why were Control Risks Group brought in so soon? Was it really to help find Madeleine, or more like to deal with damage limitation, you know? Control Risks Group was formed in 1975 as a professional advisor to the insurance industry. The private security company was one of 4 such companies used by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office to protect its property and staff in Iraq. CRG is a subsidiary of Hogg Robinson, insurance broker. Okay, so do you want to see the link here with all of this? Get ready. It really all is so cleverly planned, it's amazingly disturbing and frustrating at the same time. Baroness Justice Mary Hogg is the Conservative peer responsible for making Madeleine McCann a ward of court in May 2007. Her sister is Sarah Hogg, chairman of British private equity company 3i plc, which is a major investor in both Brian Kennedy's double glazing companies and the Control Risks Group. Why was Madeleine made a ward of court so soon after the disappearance? I have no idea whatsoever. It was in May. You know, she could have been found. And this really doesn't make any sense. No, it doesn't. I mean, how did they move so quickly, and why did they move so quickly? It makes me think perhaps there was no accident followed by a cover-up. Maybe it was something so meticulously planned way before Praia da Luz holiday. There are just too many people involved. In the days and weeks following Madeleine's disappearance, there was just too much happening at once, which does not seem normal. The press, the British consul, Clarence Mitchell, Gordon Brown, Brian Kennedy, Bell Pottinger, so many other things which just don't normally happen. Any parent with a missing child would still struggle at that point to come to terms that their child disappeared. Who would even be able to function in that situation? And so well, you know, like press releases, photo shoots, visits, trips, meetings, interviews, constant spotlight. I don't get it. Anyway, between the 5th and 12th of May 2007, two top people from Control Risks Group were dispatched to Praia da Luz, Kenneth Farrow and Michael Keenan. Farrow was the ex-head of the Economic Crime Unit in the City of London Police, and Keenan was an ex-superintendent from the Metropolitan Police with specialist fraud and investigative experience. How could they help find a missing child? I have no idea, honestly. But Jane Tanner admits to speaking to them before she identified Robert Murat as the man with the child she claimed to have seen on 3rd of May. Okay guys, let's take a coffee break. Coffee break. You are allowed to drink as well, okay? Good. Coffee. Oh, the smell of coffee. Okay, my energy levels are up. Let's carry on. Antonio Martins, president of the Association of Portuguese Judges, told the 24 Horas newspaper, and I quote, "It is still up to the state to carry out criminal investigation. That kind of activity has no legal standing. Anything that results from private investigation has no substance." End of quote. The judge added that Mr. and Mrs. McCann from Rotley, Leicestershire, could be charged with obstruction of justice if prosecutors found evidence of a parallel investigation. At the time, the couple were official suspects in the disappearance of their daughter from a holiday apartment in Praia da Luz. A high-ranking officer in the Policia Judiciaria, PJ, which was investigating the disappearance of Madeleine shortly before her 4th birthday, said that the investigators could be detained if they were found operating in Portugal. And I quote again, "If they come here, they will be running a serious risk of being arrested," he said. End of quote. Okay, a last thing that I want to touch about the Control Risks Group is that allegedly there was a report from the same group where it states, after speaking with Jerry McCann and the Tapas Group, that the key that Jerry McCann said to have used to open the door had in fact been left in the kitchen's counter. Now, I did try my best to find this report, but I could not find any more info on it. So guys, please, if any of you are able to find more details about this report, I would be more than happy to have another look into it. And I also want to read it, but I honestly can't seem to be able to find it, if there is such a report. There is. So, in September 2007, Brian Kennedy commissioned a private detectives firm based in Barcelona, Metodo 3, to conduct a parallel investigation to the one by the Portuguese police. On 15th of September 2007, John McCann issued a statement from the board of Madeleine's fund which said, and I quote, On behalf of the extended McCann family and the Madeleine Fund, I would like to say how grateful we are for people's generosity and support. The main objective of the Madeleine Fund is to leave no stone unturned in the search for Madeleine. To that end, I would like to announce that the fund will finance a broad range of initiatives in advertising to remind everyone that Madeleine is still missing. These adverts will focus on Spain, Portugal and other parts of Europe and will consist of billboards and other media. This financing of advertisements will complement previous efforts by the fund and many motivated individuals, family, friends and people touched by our cause. I hope that the general public will continue to support us in this. It is so important that we remember, don't you forget about me, our lovely wee Madeleine. End of quote. By this point, it's safe to say, and I believe, Metodo 3 had already been hired to investigate. What I find extraordinary is John McCann does not mention that at all. Anything whatsoever about the agency being hired in this statement. It seems he's making a public statement to announce new advertising initiatives, but the board of directors are not making public. They've just committed around £600,000 of Madeleine's fund, which they have been put in place to administer Metodo 3. Yes, I know, as a private company they had the right to keep that information hidden from the general public. But this is coming from the board's desire to keep public their commitment to find Madeleine, especially as the official Find Madeleine site states, and I quote, "An experienced fund administrator has been appointed to ensure the highest standards of transparency and accountability." This is end of quote. In my opinion, this secrecy really gives a hint of deception. Even John McCann's statement. It does. This is how I feel. I feel like he says it the way he says it, so that people are sympathetic and that they carry on giving more and more money. And on the other hand, they really do have to sort of make this kind of public statements to keep people updated, and not directly but indirectly to say, we need more money because this is what we are doing. So the more you give us, the more we can do. Something like that anyway. There is a significant amount being paid by Madeleine's fund to cover the fees of Metodo 3, and I talked about this a bit in another video, but let's recap. Following a great deal of confusion caused by Madeleine's fund's own brand of secrecy, the answer appears to be around £8,000 a monthly fee for Metodo 3 paid by wealthy supporter. £50,000 monthly flat fee operational costs paid by Madeleine's fund. Any excess over £50,000 per month paid by wealthy backers. Among others, the wealthy backers were reported to include double glazing tycoon Brian Kennedy and Virgin boss Sir Richard Branson. The thing is though, this huge amount of money at one point was denied by Metodo 3. Metodo 3 even threatened to sue the British media after publishing defamatory information about the fees, saying they only charged around £100,000, not £700,000 as mentioned in the media. I mean, I don't know who's right now. There's again another thing which we are getting confused about, or perhaps might this have something to do with money laundering, fraud? Who knows? Brian Kennedy, as mentioned in an article, used to spend half a year holidays in Spain. He has a villa on the outskirts of Barcelona. He chose Metodo 3, who are based in Barcelona, and some say that Kennedy knew Metodo 3 before Maddie's disappearance. Metodo 3's main investigators, Francisco Marco, Antonio Jimenez Rasso, Antonio Tamarit and Julian Peribanes, were all based in Barcelona. On 13th of November 2007, Marco and Jimenez Rasso traveled from Barcelona to meet with Brian Kennedy at the PJ's Portimao headquarters. They gave the PJ 3 credible sightings, which of course turned out to be false leads, like everything else which these people hand over to the PJ, or handed over. And now this makes me wonder, seriously, were Metodo 3 tasked to fabricate leads or information? I mean, it's not like they ever found anything, really. Anyway, on 10th of December 2007, Marco and Jimenez Rasso again traveled from Barcelona, this time to meet at the Arad Dam, Portugal, with Marcos Aragao Correa, the lawyer from Madeira who was then employed by the McCann team to prosecute Gonzalo Amaral. There, they plotted two strange searches of the Arad Dam in January and March 2008. I think that you guys are familiar with this. They were searching in a reservoir, which were conducted, the searches were conducted by Correa, the same lawyer. Detectives from Metodo 3 in Barcelona again traveled to the Arad Dam to collect the exhibits of bones and clothes dragged by divers from the lake. Turns out the bones they found were animal bones, no connection whatsoever to Madeleine. Yet another waste of money and also resources. On 17th of February 2008, McCann team investigator Jimenez Rasso was arrested and charged with supplying information to a gang which had stolen 25 kilos of cocaine from a boat in Barcelona harbor in 2004. At that time, in 2004, Jimenez Rasso was a detective inspector for the Regional Drugs and Trafficking Squad based in Barcelona. Julian Peribanes, one of Metodo 3 top private investigators, worked closely with Brian Kennedy's main UK-based investigator, Nottingham-based Gary Hagland, best known as an expert in financial compliance and money laundering. Peribanes visited England at least once, taking part in interview with the Jansen Wilshire sisters, who produced another dramatic story of a suspicious man for the British mainstream press at the end of 2007. Along with his boss, Francisco Marco, and other Metodo 3 staff, got in big trouble in early 2013. He and a number of other Metodo 3 staff were revealed to have been behind the illegal recording of conversations between high-level Spanish politicians in a Barcelona restaurant. In particular, they recorded the president of the Catalan PP party, Alicia Sanchez Camacho, interviewing Jordi Pujol, Ferrusola's ex-lover. Peribanes was discovered to have been involved and arrested. He admitted his guilt and confessed everything to the police. In 2014, it was announced that he became a poacher turned gamekeeper by publishing, together with the former head of Metodo 3 in Madrid, Antonio Tamarit, a book blowing the lid on corruption in Portugal, but also more specifically the illegal activities carried out by Metodo 3. The book La Cortina de Humo, The Smokescreen by Peribanes and Tamarit, was banned after the Metodo 3 boss Francisco Marco applied for an injunction banning the sale of the book and banning both authors from ever speaking about the contents of it. In his book, Antonio Tamarit says, and I quote, Marita Fernandez and Jose Luis Marco Lavinia traveled to Manchester. These were Francisco Marco's mother, who had not carried out any investigative work for many years, and her nephew, the company's accountant. This was all symptomatic of the plans they were setting up at poor Madeleine's expense. The aunt and nephew team returned from Manchester in heroic style. They made a big point of emphasizing that where this operation was concerned, they were not motivated by money. However, in reality, they ended up making a fortune by means of deception and dishonest trickery. I was sent to Portugal on 2 occasions, just to make up the numbers, because in theory a whole army of Metodo 3 detectives were supposed to be working in Portugal. The reality of the situation was very different. Nobody from Metodo 3 was actually working there except Julian Peribanes, who was burning the midnight oil in an attempt to solve the case, and Elisenda Vilenia for several months. After I had left Metodo 3, I began to realize to what extent the company was swindling the fund, which had been set up and which was supported by hundreds of unsuspecting people whose sole objective was to find Madeleine. Nothing special, just inflated expenses, invented items and false invoices. Who were the beneficiaries of this dishonesty? Needless to say, the usual suspects: Francisco Marco, Marita Fernandez, and his cousin Jose Luis Marco Lavinia. End of quote. Julian Peribanes, in the same book, says that the search for Madeleine was agreed to take place only in Portugal and Morocco, contrary to what we've read, that it took place in more countries. Those were fabrications, according to Julian. Francisco Marco, whenever asked how many men were looking for Madeleine McCann, he would say at least 20, but that was another lie. So he would be able to inflate Metodo 3's invoices, and he also gave Marco the opportunity to brag about this to the press. Peribanes also says in the book, and I quote, "Headlines in the media stated that a mechanism has been set up whereby operators would answer calls in Spanish, English, French, Italian, Arabic, and Portuguese. However, this consisted in reality of a switchboard which redirected calls to our office, where Metodo 3's employees, including myself, answered them. Before going on to describe the nature of the calls we received, I should mention that our understanding of English, French, Italian, Arabic, and Portuguese certainly left room for improvement. In any event, the linguistic element was of no consequence given that no relevant information was lost. Fortune tellers, Spanish playing card and tarot readers, necromancers, palmists, individuals who had had dreams but did not know what they were about, followed by others who offered interpretations of those dreams. In short, pure esotericism and complete time wasting, all of which was the result of Francisco Marco's bright and unique ideas about how to find little Madeleine." End of quote. In August of 2009, the McCann team held a press conference to mention a possible sighting of Madeleine. Information given by an anonymous British banker or businessman who had been drinking all evening in the bars around Barcelona docks on Sunday, 6th of May 2007. He claimed that a Victoria Beckham lookalike around 20 years old with an Australian accent approached him on the dockside at 2 a.m. to ask, and I quote, "Have you got my new daughter?" End of quote. He waited 2 years before releasing this worthless piece of information. 2 years. The McCann team suggested that Madeleine was abducted on a yacht which had sailed from Praia da Luz to Barcelona. In her book, Kate McCann wrote about the legal help the family had been receiving, and I quote, "Adam Tudor and his colleague Isabel Hudson continue to do a vast amount of work for us without payment." And end of quote. Isabel Hudson was later the Carter Ruck solicitor who conducted the legal proceedings from 2009 to 2013 against Tony Bennett. In 2008, she referred to how much she enjoyed regular weekends flying to Barcelona and walking in the Catalonian hills around Barcelona. In 2012, she married Mr. Javier Martorell from Barcelona, and she is now known as Isabel Martorell. It was in the Martorell No. 1 court in Barcelona that McCann investigator Jimenez Raso was tried over his alleged involvement with a 27-strong, exceptionally violent criminal gang that had stolen the cocaine from a boat in Barcelona harbor, and he was found not guilty. It seems that we do have quite some focus and a bit of connections to Barcelona. In July 2008, it was reported that Metodo 3 were the subject of a criminal process by the PJ in Faro for suspected extortion and attempted murder. The case involved a former inmate who was paid by the detective agency Metodo 3 to supply information that he allegedly obtained in prison from Joao Cipriano, the uncle of 8-year-old Joanna, who disappeared from the Algarve in 2004. Joao Cipriano allegedly told the former inmate that he owned recent photographs of Joanna and that he also had information that was related to Madeleine McCann. After the money was received, the information was not given, and the individual was tortured by the Metodo 3 detectives, filing a complaint with the PJ in Faro for attempted murder. Coordinating the case of Joanna Cipriano was Gonzalo Amaral and his team. During the investigation, the maternal uncle of Joanna, Joao Cipriano, and her mother, Leonor Cipriano, both confessed to the murder of 8-year-old Joanna. It was revealed that Leonor and her brother Joao had an incestuous relationship, which Joanna unfortunately happened to discover by chance. Joao and Leonor both confessed in October 2004 and each received a 16-year prison term. The confession was also backed forensically with evidence of Joanna's blood discovered in the freezer at their home. The case of Joanna Cipriano holds certain relevance in relation to that of Madeleine Mccann, as Kate and Jerry's private investigators, Metodo 3, were actively seeking to discredit Gonzalo Amaral. Leonor Cipriano, with the aid of lawyer Marcos Aragao Correa, tried to bring a case against 5 Portuguese officers, claiming that torture and abuse from the accused officers brought about a forced confession. The trial of the PJ inspectors also revealed many attempts by Leonor Cipriano's lawyer to discredit Gonzalo Amaral both professionally and personally. Correa is the same lawyer who previously hit the headlines when he organized an underwater search for Madeleine's body at the Arad Dam in Portugal, which we just talked about a bit earlier in the video. He admitted that Metodo 3 ordered him to do an investigation into the accusation of torture, but he denied bait to frame Gonzalo Amaral. The 5 officers accused were eventually acquitted of the torture charges. However, Antonio Nunes Cardoso, one of the 5 officers acquitted of torture charges, was found guilty of having falsified documents and received a 2.5-year suspended sentence. Amaral, who was not on duty at that time, was also convicted of falsifying documentation in the case, which quite honestly wasn't fair, but that's how the system works. He received an 18-month suspended sentence. That being said, Amaral merely stated what his officers had reported to him at that time. I'm mentioning this case actually because there are a lot of people out there who say that this is the reason Amaral was removed from Madeleine's investigation, because of his involvement in Joanna's case and allegations of torture and falsifying, which is simply not true. He wasn't on duty when the other police officer falsified documents. He didn't know about it. He was only writing what the other inspector told him, and he wasn't even in the building when Leonor claimed she was being tortured. He received a suspended sentence because he was responsible for that investigation and the police officers involved. Being responsible for the investigation, any wrongdoings found would of course affect him as well. It's the nature of the job really, and what comes with this kind of responsibility. You know, to put it in general terms, it's like when you have a job at a supermarket, yeah, and you work at the tills, at the checkout, and your colleague steals money from your checkout whilst covering your break, right? Because it's your till and your shift, you can be held responsible even though you didn't steal those money because you were on your break. Anyway, going back to Amaral. Following the delivery of the verdict, Leonor Cipriano's lawyer, Correa, said to Metodo 3, and I quote, "Target was hit, Gonzalo Amaral was convicted." End of quote. This speaks for itself, in my opinion. Leonor Cipriano was given 7 extra months on her sentence for lying about being tortured. So we found out that she was actually lying, so that makes it not true what she said about Gonzalo Amaral. So what came of it? Nothing was true. It was only made to discredit Gonzalo Amaral. All made up. It was brought up in Madeleine Mcann's investigation only to discredit Amaral's work on this case. The investigators from Metodo 3 were also suspected of persecuting Robert Murat for several months, trying to find elements to incriminate him. Tracking devices were also detected on Murat's car. Julian Peribanes was informed by Francisco Marco that the Madeleine Fund contract terminated. Julian, at this point, he knew of the fraud the Metodo 3 were doing in terms of the Madeleine Fund money, so he decided to contact Brian Kennedy. After a few emails sent mentioning him and Antonio Tamarit discovered Metodo 3 had conned the Madeleine Fund by producing false invoices, and they wanted to meet with Kennedy in order to check the information with him. Kennedy, at this point, is asking Julian to contact his lawyer, Edward Smithhurst, who was also on the board of directors of the fund, which he did, of course. So he sent him a similar email, to which Smithhurst replies, and I quote, "Dear Julian, I have just finished participating in a telephone conference with our advisors. As you are probably aware, the Metropolitan Police is currently responsible for the investigation. Therefore, the Trust, the Madeleine Fund, has decided neither to meet with nor to discuss the investigation with any private investigators whilst the Metropolitan Police are carrying out their investigation. We will therefore not be able to meet with you. However, if you have any information which may assist the Trust, the Madeleine Fund, or the investigation, please feel free to send it to us by email and we will welcome this." End of quote. Julian, at this point, he got so frustrated because he was trying to expose the scam, but they were not listening to him. He was angry at how cold and ignorant of the fraud Smithhurst was, especially because they were charged for work which was not carried out. They had their hopes raised only to come to nothing. Feeling let down, Julian wanted to find out exactly what the Madeleine Fund's position was, and so he sent them the following email, and I quote, "I understand that your position is as follows, that we wish to assist the Madeleine Fund to uncover a fraud which was perpetrated against the above fund by a firm of private detectives, Metodo 3, with which the fund had entered into a contract, and that you do not wish to hold a meeting with us, and that you will not cooperate with us in order to expose the above agency, which has stolen money destined for locating Madeleine Mccann, which people around the world had donated out of the goodness of their hearts for the purpose of finding a missing girl, and which ended up lining the pockets of Metodo 3 as a result of false invoicing. Please, would you simply let me know whether I have got this right, as I am finding it difficult to understand your position, and solely for the sake of clarity, so that I can be sure that we cannot rely upon cooperation from the Madeleine Fund in relation to this matter, and to enable us to pursue this issue in a different direction. With best wishes, Julian." And this is end of quote. So, in case you got lost, this is the email Julian sent to Madeleine's Fund, right? To let them know what's happening with the scam, with the fraud thing. And, needless to say, Madeleine's Fund never replied to his email. So, it seems that Madeleine's Fund was being silent. Jerry McCann never replied to Julian's email either, the content of which was similar to the previously sent emails to Brian Kennedy and the lawyer Edward Smithhurst. So even Jerry McCann received an email and he never got back to Julian. It seems to me that these people were not looking to take any legal action against Metodo 3, even if they knew about the fraud, if there was really a fraud, which makes me wonder why. I mean, it's not like we are talking about 100 pounds of scam, but this is about almost 1 million pounds. Honestly, it makes me think that Metodo 3 either knew or found out something which could potentially incriminate the Mccanns, and that's why the agency was never touched legally. Probably the Mccanns had too much to lose. We do know by now how they liked throwing those fund money away on suing everyone, so if they didn't take legal action against Metodo 3, they didn't do it for a reason. They probably knew too much. This is my opinion. Anyway, Metodo 3 finally went out of business in 2014 after its boss, Francisco Marco, was found to have ordered his staff to illegally record private conversations between top Catalonian politicians at La Petite Paris, a restaurant in Barcelona. But then, to keep it going, in 2008, the Mccanns employed Oakley International, an investigation firm in the United States described by investigative journalist Robin Swan as one of the big boys in investigations, run by Kevin Halligan. I am adding also a quote here. They were promised all sorts of things, that the people working for Oakley were former FBI, CIA and MI6, that they had the latest in investigative tools, techniques, technology available to them. They could do all sorts of things that Metodo 3, their previous investigators, could not do, Robin Swan said in the documentary, end of quote. Okay, long story short, because otherwise this will be too long of a video, it seems the Mccanns were scammed once again by Oakley International after the other scam by Metodo 3. And Brian Kennedy was involved in both, having partially funded both agencies. So, I don't know. As it turns out, the Mccanns get scammed not once, but twice. And each time, huge amounts of money are involved. I mean, tell me, what are the odds that someone can be scammed twice over the same thing, in this case, the investigation? Where was the due diligence? I mean, I know, yeah, you get scammed once, okay, fine, I can understand. But to be scammed twice? For the same thing? I mean, normal people, even when you get scammed of £20 for something which you didn't realize you did wrong, and you got scammed, the next time you pay more attention to make sure you're not gonna get scammed again. And that is for £10, £20, £5, whatever, £1, doesn't matter, because money is still money. But we are talking about almost £1 million. Seriously, this is very, very, very strange indeed. It seems like they were allowing themselves to be scammed. I don't know, does it have anything to do with fraud? Does it have anything to do with money laundering? I don't know, but it smells really fishy here. And you know, as I like saying, when it smells fishy, it really is fishy. I am really inclined to believe that this all had a purpose in the fraud game the Mccanns have going, in my opinion. I think that, yes, I think that there is some sort of fraud here from the Mccanns and the board of directors, whatever, everybody involved in this. But how do you think that they are doing it? Anyway, how do you think they are doing it? Please do let me know in the comments below. And with this, I'm going to end today's video. My next video will be about, I don't know, something. I don't know yet, but I will let you know with a following post on YouTube about this. It might be about Oakley International, quite possibly, yeah. Anyway, many thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed your coffee with me today. Please don't forget, if you are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button below. Also, make sure you press the notification bell so you are the one to know about any new videos I upload. Also, I believe there are some issues at YouTube, so if you guys have been subscribed to my channel but for some reason you don't see any notifications when I upload new videos, it might be that there are issues on YouTube. So what I suggest you do is unsubscribe from my channel and then subscribe back again, if it makes sense. Yeah, there are some issues lately with YouTube, so yeah. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Take care and stay safe. Bye bye.